The lecture hall smelled like recycled air and anxiety. Typical. I adjusted my thermal sensors for the third time that morning, trying to get comfortable in the human-designed seating. My name is Vorkath, and I teach interspecies combat theory at the Galactic Military Institute on Station Apex 9. 23 years of service. 16 different species under my instruction. And in all that time, I had never seen anything quite like this. She sat in the back row. Always the back row. Her name was Maya Laurent, and to look at her, you would think she was the least threatening being in the entire auditorium. Small by human standards, maybe 5'4" in their measurement system, slim build. Dark hair pulled back in what they call a ponytail. She wore the standard gray cadet uniform, same as everyone else. She never raised her hand, never volunteered answers, never caused trouble. But here is the thing that made my secondary heart rate spike every single morning. Every predator species in that room tracked her first. Not obviously. Oh no, that would be too simple. The Kryn with their 6 compound eyes would flick just one sensor array in her direction when entering. The Thracian hunters, apex predators from a world where everything wanted to kill you, would pause just for a fraction of a second. Orientation focused on the back row. Even the Velkori, blind as deep space, but able to sense bioelectrical fields from 30 meters away, would tilt their sensory fronds toward her position before settling into their seats. I am a Moldaran. We are not predators. We are analysts, strategists, what humans might call the nerds of the galactic community. But evolution gave us something useful, a kind of threat assessment ability that kept our ancestors alive when bigger, meaner things wanted to eat them. It is not conscious. It is deeper than that. Instinct. And my instinct said that quiet little human in the back row was the most dangerous thing in the room. Which was absolutely insane. I mean, look at the competition. Front row, left side. That is Karach. 8 feet of scaled murder from Thrasos Prime. His species invented the concept of the ambush kill. 3 rows back, the twins, Sela and Mora, from the Kryn Collective. Compound eyes that can track 47 independent targets simultaneously. They had been hunting in pack formations since before humans discovered fire. And yet, every single one of them knew where Maya Laurent was at all times. Today, I announced, my translator converting my whistling clicks into galactic common, we will discuss the Carthon incident of 2247. Who can tell me what went wrong? Immediate response from Karach, as expected. The Thracian loved this stuff. Tactical failure, sir. The human commander ignored established protocol and engaged the enemy directly rather than maintaining defensive positions. Correct. And the result? Total victory for the humans, sir, despite being outnumbered 4-1. Ayu, ta'ait, clicked my mandibles together in what humans call a smile. Precisely. Which brings us to today's question. Why do humans keep winning battles they should lose? Silence. Beautiful, uncomfortable silence. Then, from the back row, so quiet I almost missed it. Because we are too stupid to know we should lose. Every head turned. Maya had not moved, had not even looked up from her tablet. But she had spoken, and now the entire room was focused on her. Elaborate, Cadet Laurent. She finally looked up, and I saw something flicker in those brown eyes. Amusement, maybe, or was it calculation? Most species in the galaxy fight logically, sir. They assess threats, calculate odds, make rational decisions based on available data. Humans do not do that. We assess the situation, decide it is impossible, and then do it anyway because, quote, that sounds cool. A rippling laugh went through the Velkori section. Even Karach made the clicking sound that passed for Thracian humor. You are saying humans are irrational? I am saying we are creative, sir. There is a difference. I activated the holographic display, bringing up a tactical map of the Carthon system. Very well. Let us test this creativity. You are commanding the human frigate Defiance. 3 Zelthari cruisers have you boxed in near the asteroid field. Your shields are at 40%. Weapons systems damaged, engines compromised. Logical decision, Karach? The Thracian did not hesitate. Surrender. Preserve crew. Live to fight another day. Cadet Laurent? She studied the display for exactly 4 seconds. Then she smiled, and I swear every predator in the room felt it. I would ram the middle cruiser at full burn, using the explosion to destabilize the asteroid field, which would create a debris cascade that would damage or destroy the other 2 cruisers, while my crew evacuates in the emergency pods, pre-programmed to look like additional debris. The Zelthari sensors would be overwhelmed. By the time they sorted out what happened, my people would be recovered by our reinforcements, who I would have already called because I am not an idiot, and we would have taken out 3 cruisers with a frigate that was already dead anyway. Complete. Utter. Silence. Then Karach said, very slowly, "That is insane." "Yes," Maya agreed, still smiling. "But would it work?" I ran the simulation. It took 37 seconds. The computer agreed with her. 73% success probability, which in military terms might as well be a guarantee. It would work, I admitted. It would also violate 16 different regulations, get you court-martialed, and probably start a diplomatic incident. But my crew would survive, and the enemy would be neutralized. Sir, I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, I started to understand what my instincts had been screaming about for the past 3 months. This human was not just dangerous, she was dangerously smart. There is a difference. The rest of the lecture went normally, or as normally as anything went after Maya spoke up. I outlined the actual historical events, the tactics used, the outcomes. Standard stuff. But I noticed things I had not noticed before. Every time I presented a tactical scenario, her eyes would go distant for just a moment. Running simulations, calculating. And occasionally, just occasionally, her lips would quirk in this tiny smile, like she had just figured out a joke nobody else understood yet. It was terrifying. Class ended. The students filed out. The usual chaos of different species trying to navigate human-designed doorways. Maya was the last to leave, as always. She paused at my desk. "Sir, may I ask a question?" "Of course, Cadet." "Why do you watch me like that?" "Direct. No preamble. Very human." "I am not sure what you mean." "Yes, you are." She tilted her head, studying me the way a scientist studies a particularly interesting specimen. "You have been watching me since the first day of class. Not obviously. You are too professional for that. But I notice things. So, why?" I considered lying, decided against it. This human would see through it. Because every predator in this class tracks you first. Because my threat assessment instincts, which have kept my species alive for 4 million years, say you are the most dangerous being in this room. And because I have no idea why. She was quiet for a moment. Then that smile again, the one that made my secondary heart skip. "Good instincts, sir." She left. I sat there for 10 minutes, just processing that interaction. Good instincts. What did that mean? Was it a threat? A joke? A simple acknowledgement? I pulled up her file. Standard stuff. Born on Earth, city called Portland. Graduated top of her class from some institution called Reed College. No military background, Applied to the Galactic Institute on a civilian scholarship. Test scores off the charts. Physical assessments, average to slightly above average for humans, which meant pathetically weak by galactic standards. But there was a note in her psychological evaluation. Just one line, added by the human evaluator. Candidate demonstrates exceptional creative problem-solving and an unusual comfort with high-risk scenarios. Recommend advanced tactical placement. Comfort with high-risk scenarios. I pulled up the Carthon incident files, the real ones, not the sanitized teaching versions. Started reading the actual after-action reports, and that is when I found it. The commanding officer of the Defiance, the one who had pulled off that impossible victory? Commander Elizabeth Laurent, Maya's mother. Oh no. The next class was 3 days later. Interspecies Combat Practicum. Not theory this time. Actual simulated combat in the Institute's advanced VR pods. Students would be divided into mixed species squads and run through various scenarios. Command positions would rotate. I was very curious to see what would happen when Maya Laurent got command. The pods were state-of-the-art, full sensory immersion, neural feedback, the whole package. Could not actually hurt you, but your brain would certainly think it could. We had 6 squads today. Squad 3 included Maya, Cratch, a Velcori named Thresh, and 2 Kryn, the twins Sella and Mora. Command rotation would be random. I stood in the observation deck with my teaching assistant, a young Velcori named Pryn, who was still learning the subtle art of not getting eaten by the predator species in our classes. Which squad should we monitor first, sir? Squad 3. Any particular reason? A hunch. The scenario's loaded. Standard stuff. Squad 3 got urban pacification, a messy situation involving civilian populations and hidden hostiles. First commander, randomly selected, Cadet Laurent. Of course. I leaned forward, watching the tactical display. The squad spawned in a ruined city, smoke and debris everywhere. Their mission, locate and extract a group of diplomats being held hostage by insurgents. Time limit, 30 minutes. Failure conditions, diplomat casualties or squad casualties exceeding 20%. Standard approach, advance carefully, use overwhelming force, extract targets, exfiltrate. Maya did not do that. Cratch, I need you to make noise. Big noise. North sector, about 4 blocks from our position. Break things, roar a lot. Be terrifying. The Thracian looked confused. You want me to announce our position? I want you to announce a position, yes. Sella, Mora, I need you airborne. You have the best visual range. Find me the hostage location and all enemy positions. Do not engage, just report. And me? Thresh asked, the Velcori's sensor fronds quivering with anticipation. You are with me. We are going to walk straight down Main Street like we own the place. That is suicide, Karach protested. No, that is misdirection. You are the threat they will focus on. The twins are the eyes I need. Thresh and I are going to be the ones they do not see coming. Now move. We have 28 minutes. I watched it unfold. Cratch charged north, making enough noise to wake the dead. Every insurgent position immediately oriented on his location, exactly as Maya had planned. The Kryn twins went vertical, their compound eyes cataloging every threat within visual range. And Maya and Thresh just walked, straight down the main thoroughfare. Not hiding, not sneaking, just 2 cadets taking a stroll through a war zone. This is insane, Pryn whispered beside me. This is brilliant, I corrected, because the insurgents were not looking for casual. They were looking for tactical. They had prepared for assault teams, for stealth infiltrations, for standard military doctrine. They had not prepared for two cadets just walking down the street like they were going to get coffee. Maya and Thresh reached the building where the hostages were held. 10 insurgents inside. 20 more scattered throughout the area. All focused on Cratch's rampage to the north. Sela, Mora, give me a cascade pattern on my mark. Start from position Alpha. Work clockwise. Thresh, when they drop, we go straight in, fast and quiet. Kratch, when you hear explosions, go completely silent and head for extraction point Beta. Acknowledged, came 3 separate responses. Mark. The Kryn twins dove. To anyone watching, it would look like a simple strafing run. But Maya had calculated the angles perfectly. Each blast created debris patterns that blocked sight lines, disabled communications, and herded the insurgents into kill zones where they could not support each other. Thresh and Maya went through the front door while the building was still shaking. The Valkyrie's electrical sense tagged every hostile. Maya's sidearm barked twice, 3 times, 4 times. Precise, efficient, brutal. 90 seconds later, they were evacuating 3 very confused diplomats. Kratch, who had gone silent as instructed, appeared at the extraction point exactly on schedule. The whole squad loaded into the transport. Mission complete. 0 casualties. Time elapsed. 14 minutes. I sat back in my chair, processing what I had just witnessed. Sir? Prin sounded worried. Is it normal for humans to fight like that? No, I said slowly. It is not normal for anyone to fight like that. The debriefing after the simulation was interesting. Maya stood at ease while I reviewed her performance. The rest of Squad 3 looked like they had been hit by a cargo hauler. Cadet Laurent, explain your tactical reasoning. Speed and confusion, sir. Standard doctrine says advance carefully, minimize risk. But careful is slow, and slow gives enemies time to prepare, reposition, and hurt hostages. I prioritized speed over safety. You used Cadet Kratch as bait. I used Cadet Kratch as a distraction, sir. There is a difference. He was never in actual danger. The insurgents needed a threat to focus on, something that matched their expectations. Kratch gave them that, while the twins and I did the real work. Kratch rumbled something that might have been approval. Hard to tell with Thracians. And the direct approach? Walking down Main Street? Humans have a saying, sir. Hide in plain sight. Nobody expects a combat team to just walk. They expect sneaking or charging. Walking confuses them, makes them hesitate, and hesitation is death in combat. Where did you learn tactics like this? My mother, sir. Commander Elizabeth Laurent. She said the best way to win a fight is to make your enemy fight a different battle than the one they prepared for. There it was, confirmation. Your mother is the Laurent? The Carthon commander? Yes, sir. Did she teach you the ramming maneuver as well? That smile again. Actually, sir, I came up with that one on my own. Mom said I had a gift for creative destruction. She meant it as a compliment. Of course she did. The rest of the debriefing went smoothly. I outlined what went right, which was most of it, and what could be improved, which was not much. Squad 3 was dismissed, but I kept thinking about Maya's words. Make your enemy fight a different battle than the one they prepared for. It was the key to understanding human military success. They did not win because they were stronger or faster or better armed. They won because they changed the game every single time, forcing everyone else to play by rules that did not exist yet. 2 weeks passed. More classes. More simulations. Maya rotated through command positions, and every single time she did something unexpected. Not flashy, not stupid. Just different. Angles nobody else saw. Solutions nobody else considered. The predator species in class started requesting transfers to her squad. That should have been my first warning. The second warning came when I was reviewing personnel files late one night, looking for patterns, trying to understand the dynamics developing in my class, and I noticed something strange. Every single predator species cadet who had served under Maya's command in simulations had improved their individual performance scores. Not by a little, by a lot. 20, 30, sometimes 40% increases in tactical assessment, situational awareness, and combat efficiency. She was making them better, just by working with them. How? I pulled surveillance footage from the SimPods, watching her interactions, and I saw it. After each scenario, win or lose, Maya would talk to her squad. Not debriefing, not criticizing, just talking, asking questions. Cratch, what did you notice about the enemy positioning? Thresh, when did you first sense the ambush? Sella, Mora, what patterns did you see from above? She was not teaching them. She was learning from them, and in the process of explaining their instincts and observations to her, they were learning to understand themselves better. It was educational judo, using their own strength to make them stronger. Terrifyingly effective. I scheduled a private meeting with Maya. She arrived exactly on time, of course, and settled into the chair across from my desk, with that unnerving calm she always had. Cadet Laurent, I have been reviewing your performance. Yes, sir. You are making the predator species better at being predators. She tilted her head slightly. Is that a problem, sir? That depends on your intentions. My intentions are to graduate, sir, to become an officer in the Galactic Defense Fleet, to serve with honor. Standard stuff. Nothing about you is standard, cadet. She laughed. Actually laughed. Fair point, sir. Okay, you want the real answer? I am making them better because I need them to be better. Because we are all going to serve together someday, probably sooner than we would like. And when that happens, I want the beings covering my back to be the absolute best they can be. By teaching them to think like humans? No, sir. By teaching them to think like themselves, but better. Karach is an Eidagam ambush predator. That is in his DNA. But he was not using his full potential because he was trying to fight like the manuals say, to fight. I just showed him how to be more himself. Same with the others. She leaned forward, and for the first time, I saw something serious in her eyes, something that went beyond tactics and simulations. Sir, humans are weak. We know this. We are slow, fragile, and we do not have claws or armor or electrical senses or any of the advantages that other species have. So we learned to use our brains, to be creative, to think sideways, and we learned to work with species who have the advantages we lack. That is how we survive. That is how we win. By being force multipliers for everyone around us. Force multipliers. Of course. That is what Maya Laurent was. Not dangerous in herself, although I was beginning to suspect that assessment was wrong too, but dangerous because she made everything around her more dangerous, more effective, more lethal. No wonder the predators tracked her. Thank you, cadet. That will be all. She stood to leave, then paused. Sir, one more thing. Yes? You are a good teacher, but you are scared of us, of humans, of me specifically. You hide it well, but I can tell, and I just want you to know, you do not need to be scared. Why not? That smile. That damn smile. Because we are on the same side, sir. And as long as that is true, you are the safest being in the galaxy. She left. I sat there for a long time, thinking about her words, about the implications, about what it meant that this small, quiet human could make that statement, and I believed her completely. The final exam was approaching. A full-scale combat scenario involving all 6 squads working together. Mixed command structure. Unknown mission parameters until go time. The scenario would adapt based on their actions, responding intelligently to tactics and strategy. It was designed to be brutal. Command assignments would be announced the morning of the exam, but I had already decided. Maya Laurent would have overall tactical command, not because she was the best student, although she was, not because she was human, although that played a factor, because I wanted to see what she could do when everything was on the line, because I needed to know if my instincts were right, because every predator in my class was waiting to follow her, and because, deep in my threat assessment cortex, something was screaming that this was important, that this quiet human in the back row was going to change everything. I just had no idea how right I was. The morning of the final exam arrived. All 24 cadets assembled in the briefing room, nervous energy filling the air. I activated the main display. Your final examination begins in 30 minutes. Overall tactical command will be held by Cadet Laurent. Supporting command positions will be assigned as follows. I listed the command structure. Karach would lead the strike element. The Kryn, twins would handle reconnaissance. Thresh commanded the support units. Standard assignments based on species strengths. Maya stood there, absorbing the information, her expression neutral. But I saw her eyes flicking between the names, the positions, already building a mental model of how to use each asset. Mission parameters will be revealed once you are in the simulation. You will have no preparation time. This is deliberate. Your grade will be based on adaptability, leadership effectiveness, and mission success. Casualties will be penalized heavily. Questions? Silence. Good. Equipment check in 10 minutes. Dismissed. They filed out, all except Maya, who stayed behind. Sir, why me for overall command? Because you are the best tactical thinker in this class. Karach has more combat experience. Thresh has better situational awareness. The twins have superior coordination. By any measurable standard, they are better suited for command. But you think I will do something none of them would think of. Will you? That smile. Probably, sir. That is what I am counting on, Cadet. Do not let me down. No, sir. She left. I pulled up the scenario parameters, reviewing one last time. The simulation I had designed was based on a real historical event. The Battle of Thermopolis Station, where a small garrison had held off an invading fleet long enough for reinforcements to arrive. A defensive scenario. Limited resources. Overwhelming enemy forces. Textbook last stand. I wondered how Maya would handle it, what creative insanity she would come up with when there was no good solution, only bad options and worse options. 20 minutes later, all 24 cadets were in their pods, neural links established, simulation loading. I watched from the observation deck, Prin beside me taking notes. The scenario initialized. Thermopolis Station, an aging orbital platform orbiting a mineral-rich asteroid. 6 squads worth of defenders. Minimal armaments. Long-range sensors detecting an incoming fleet. 47 ships, mostly cruisers and destroyers with 3 carrier-class vessels. Time until fleet arrival, 4 hours. Reinforcements, 6 hours minimum. Mission, hold the station until reinforcements arrive. Maya's voice came through the command channel, calm and clear. All units, this is Laurent. Situation report, we are outnumbered, outgunned, and stuck on a station that was obsolete 20 years ago. Our mission is to not die for the next 6 hours. I am open to suggestions. She had just said the quiet part loud, acknowledging the impossible situation, but also framing it with dark humor, very human, which would help keep morale up. Station defenses? That was Cratch. Minimal. 8-point defense turrets, all ancient. 4 torpedo tubes, 12 torpedoes total. 1 heavy railgun that might fire twice before burning out. Shields that will stop exactly nothing. We could try fighting conventionally, and we would last maybe 30 minutes. So we do not fight conventionally, Thresh said, catching on. Exactly. Sella, Mora, I need a complete scan of this system. Every asteroid, every debris field, every piece of floating rock bigger than a transport pod. Karach. Inventory every single resource on this station. Weapons, fuel, industrial equipment, everything. Thresh, you are on communications. I need to know the enemy fleet's composition, formation, and approach vector. Orders issued. The squads jumped to their tasks, and I started to see it. Maya was not planning to defend the station. She was planning to weaponize the entire system. 3 hours until enemy arrival. Maya had gathered all squad leaders in the station's command center, a cramped room that smelled like old metal and desperation. All right, here is what we have. She pulled up a holographic display of the system. Thermopolis asteroid has a 73% iron content. The mining equipment on this station includes 6 industrial plasma cutters, 2 mass drivers for launching ore containers, and a refinery that is still partially functional. The asteroid field between us and the enemy approach vector contains approximately 4,000 objects larger than a transport pod. Karach leaned forward, his scales reflecting the blue light from the display. You want to mine during a battle? No. I want to turn this entire asteroid field into the galaxy's largest shotgun. Silence. Beautiful, confused silence. Maya continued, her fingers dancing across the display. The mass drivers can accelerate a 10-ton container to 0.03 light speed. We cannot aim them at ships, they move too fast. But we can aim them at predictable locations. The enemy fleet will maintain formation through the asteroid field because that is what the tactical manuals say to do. Their point defense can handle asteroids. What it cannot handle is asteroids that suddenly explode into thousands of iron fragments traveling at relativistic speeds. You want to turn asteroids into cluster munitions, Thresh said slowly, his sensor fronds quivering with what might have been excitement or horror. Exactly. We use the plasma cutters to hollow out 20 asteroids, pack them with refined iron fragments from the station's ore reserves, then use the mass drivers to launch them into the enemy's path. We set them to detonate on proximity triggers, which we can make from the torpedo guidance systems. The fleet flies into a debris field, moving fast enough to punch through their shields. Sella clicked her mandibles together. That is either genius or insane. Why not both? Maya smiled. Mora, you and your sister will place the charges. You have the best spatial awareness. Cratch, your team will do the cutting and packing. Thresh, I need you coordinating the mass driver calculations. Timing has to be perfect. If we launch too early, they will see it coming. Too late, and we miss entirely. What will you be doing? Cratch asked. I am going to make sure they fly exactly where we want them to. The work began. I watched from the observation deck as 24 cadets transformed from students into something else, something focused and dangerous. The Kryn twins flew through the asteroid field with plasma charges, their compound eyes tracking trajectories that would have given me a headache. Cratch's team used industrial equipment like surgical tools, carving out asteroid cores with surprising precision. Thresh ran calculations that would have taxed a military-grade computer. adjusting for rotation, velocity, and 1,000 other variables. And Maya coordinated it all, her voice steady on the command channel, encouraging, correcting, adapting the plan as new problems emerged. 2 hours until contact. 18 modified asteroids in position. 2 more being prepped. The station's ore reserves were nearly depleted, which was fine because Maya had another use for the remaining material. Karach, take your team and weld iron plating to the station's outer hull. Focus on the side facing the enemy approach. We need it to look like we are fortifying for a siege. Are we not fortifying for a siege? We are creating a decoy. The enemy needs to believe we are planning a conventional defense. Otherwise, they might change their approach vector, and our entire trap fails. 30 minutes later, the station looked like someone had attempted to armor it using scrap metal and desperation, which was accurate, except the armor was cosmetic, designed to create false sensor readings that suggested the station was more defended than it actually was. 1 hour until contact. All asteroids in position. Mass drivers loaded and aimed. The station's minimal weapons were armed and targeting systems online. Not that they would do much good. Maya had the entire defense force positioned inside the station, away from windows, behind blast doors. "Sir," Prin whispered beside me, "she is not positioning anyone to actually fight." "No," I agreed. "She is positioning them to survive." 45 minutes. Long-range sensors detected the enemy fleet. 47 ships, exactly as predicted. They were maintaining a standard penetration formation. 3 carriers in the center, cruisers and destroyers arranged in a protective sphere around them. Maya's voice came through the command channel. "Thresh, I need you to send a transmission to the enemy fleet. Standard defensive posturing. Tell them we are a training station with minimal armaments and request safe passage for non-combatants." "Why would we do that?" Thresh asked. "Because every second they spend considering our request is a second they maintain their current course and speed. Also, it makes us look desperate and helpless." "We are desperate and helpless," Quarach rumbled. "Yes, but they do not need to know we have a plan." The transmission was sent. The enemy fleet's response came 3 minutes later. "Surrender or be destroyed. Standard aggressor. Rhetoric." Maya had Thresh send another transmission, this one more pleading, buying another 2 minutes. 20 minutes until contact. The enemy fleet entered the asteroid field, point defense systems active, vaporizing any rocks that got too close. Their formation was perfect, textbook military precision. They were heading exactly where Maya wanted them. "All units, stand by. Do not fire station weapons. Do not do anything that might make them change course. Just wait." 15 minutes. The lead destroyers were passing the first cluster of modified asteroids. The proximity triggers armed automatically, waiting for the carriers to reach optimal position. 10 minutes. I could feel the tension through the observation feeds. 24 cadets holding their breath, watching sensors, waiting for the moment. 5 minutes. The carriers entered the kill zone. "Mora, light them up!" The Kryn twin activated the detonation sequence. 20 asteroids exploded simultaneously, each one releasing thousands of iron fragments accelerated to 0.03 light speed by the mass driver's magnetic coils. The result was spectacular and horrifying. The enemy's point defense systems tried to respond, but you cannot shoot down a debris cloud. The fragments hit their formation like a cosmic shotgun blast. Shields flared and failed. Hull plating vaporized. 3 destroyers simply came apart, their structural integrity compromised by thousands of hypervelocity impacts, One carrier took a direct hit to its engine section and went dark, tumbling through space. The formation scattered, ships breaking away from the debris field, trying to regroup, which was exactly what Maya had been waiting for. Cratch, fire the heavy railgun. Target the carrier that is still mobile on the left flank. The ancient railgun roared to life, its magnetic coils screaming as they accelerated a tungsten slug to ridiculous speeds. The shot was perfect, punching through the carrier's weakened shields and penetrating deep into its hull. The ship listed badly, venting atmosphere. Thresh, fire all torpedoes. Target the cruisers trying to reform on our right. 12 torpedoes launched, spreading out in a pattern that forced the cruisers to choose between taking hits or breaking formation further. They chose to break formation, which meant they were no longer supporting each other. Sella, Mora, you are up. Hit the damaged ships. Make them think we have more firepower than we do. The twins launched from the station, carrying improvised explosives made from mining charges. They were not military-grade weapons, but on ships that were already damaged, already panicking. They did not need to be. 2 more destroyers went critical, their reactors overloading. The enemy fleet was in chaos. What should have been an easy assault on a helpless station had turned into a nightmare of debris fields, hidden threats, and devastating ambushes. And Maya was not done. All units, abandon station. I repeat, abandon station. Get to the evacuation pods now. What? Cratch sounded confused. We are winning. No, we are surviving. There is a difference. They still have 30-plus functional ships. Once they regroup, they will flatten this station out of spite. So we leave, now. The cadets scrambled for the evacuation pods, small, fast, and with minimal sensor signatures. They launched in groups of 4, scattering in different directions, making themselves impossible targets. And Maya stayed behind, alone in the command center, fingers flying across the controls. Cadet Laurent, what are you doing? I asked through the command channel. Buying time, sir. The enemy is going to regroup any second now. When they do, they will target the station with everything they have. But if I can make them think we are still fighting back, they will focus on the station instead of the pods. You will die. Probably not, sir. I have an escape plan, mostly. She activated every remaining system on the station. Point defense turrets firing on automatic. Sensor arrays broadcasting false signals. Even the running lights started strobing in patterns that suggested multiple ships docking and launching. The enemy fleet, battered and angry, saw a station that was still fighting. They regrouped, 29 remaining ships forming a bombardment line, and they opened fire. I watched in horror as plasma bolts and missiles converged on Thermopolis Station. The ancient structure, already weakened by decades of neglect, began to come apart under the assault. Cadet Laurent, evacuate immediately. 10 more seconds, sir. Need to make sure they commit. The station's shields, such as they were, failed. Hull breaches erupted across multiple sections. Internal explosions rippled through the structure. Now would be good, Maya. Cratch's voice, tight with worry. On it! Maya sprinted through the dying station, heading for the last evacuation pod. Blast doors were slamming shut behind her, automated systems trying to contain the damage. She vaulted over a collapsed support beam, slid under a sparking power conduit, and dove through the pod's hatch just as the corridor behind her decompressed explosively. The pod launched, its tiny engines screaming as it accelerated away from the station at maximum burn. 3 seconds later, Thermopolis Station's reactor went critical. The explosion was massive, a miniature star blooming in the darkness of space. the shockwave caught two enemy cruisers that had gotten too close, slamming them into each other and sending both tumbling away disabled. 27 enemy ships remained, still more than enough to hunt down the evacuation pods. But they did not, because at that exact moment, the reinforcement fleet arrived. 6 heavy cruisers, 2 battleships, and a full carrier group dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The enemy fleet took one look at the fresh reinforcements, assessed their own damaged state, and decided that discretion was the better part of not being vaporized. They retreated, limping away at best speed. The evacuation pods were recovered. All 24 cadets accounted for, shaken but alive. Mission success. 0 casualties. Enemy fleet repelled with significant losses. I sat in the observation deck, staring at the tactical display, trying to process what I had just witnessed. "Sir?" Prin's voice was very small. "Did that human just turn a training exercise into actual military doctrine?" "Yes," I said slowly. "Yes, she did." The debriefing took 3 hours. Every cadet had to provide a detailed account of their actions, their decision-making process, their assessment of the leadership, standard procedure. But nothing about this had been standard. The Institute's commandant attended personally. Fleet Admiral Korvax, a Thracian who had seen more combat than most species saw in their entire civilization's history. He listened to the reports, reviewed the sensor logs, and studied the tactical playback. Then he looked at Maya, who stood at attention in front of his desk, and said, "Cadet Laurent, in 30 years of reviewing final examinations, I have never seen anything like what you did today." "Thank you, sir." "I did not say it was good. I said I had never seen it." Maya's expression did not change. "Yes, sir. You destroyed Institute property. You weaponized civilian mining equipment. You used cadets as bait, as demolition experts, and as decoys. You turned a defensive scenario into an offensive ambush. You violated approximately 47 regulations, 3 treaties, and at least 1 law of physics that I am still trying to understand." "Yes, sir." Korvax leaned back in his chair. "And you saved every single life under your command, while inflicting catastrophic losses on a vastly superior enemy force, using nothing but creativity, desperation, and industrial equipment." "That was the mission, sir. Hold until reinforcements arrive." "We held." "You did more than hold, cadet. You won." He paused. "I am giving you the highest marks in the history of this institute. I am also flagging your file for immediate command track placement upon graduation. And I am recommending that your tactical approach be studied and integrated into our advanced warfare curriculum." For the first time, Maya looked surprised. "Sir?" "The galaxy is changing, Cadet Laurent. New threats are emerging. Old tactics are failing. We need officers who can think differently, who can turn disadvantages into advantages, who can win battles that should be unwinnable." He gestured to the tactical display, still showing the wreckage of Thermopolis Station. "You just proved that humans have something the rest of us need to learn. The ability to look at an impossible situation and find a solution that nobody else would even consider. With respect, sir, I could not have done it without my squad. Cratch's precision, Thresh's calculations, Sella and Mora's execution. They trusted me, followed my insane plans, and made it work. That is the real lesson here. Not that humans are special, but that when different species work together, combining our strengths, we become something greater than any of us could be alone." Korvax studied her for a long moment, then he clicked his mandibles in what passed for a Thracian smile. "Well said, cadet. Dismissed." Maya saluted and left, but the commandant gestured for me to stay. Vorkath, your assessment of Cadet Laurent? I chose my words carefully. She is the most tactically gifted student I have ever taught, sir. She is also the most dangerous. Not because she wants to cause harm, but because she sees possibilities that others do not. She turns ordinary resources into extraordinary weapons. She makes everyone around her better at their jobs. And she has an instinct for finding the exact weakness in any situation and exploiting it without mercy. You are describing a perfect officer. Or a perfect disaster, sir. It depends on which side she is on. And which side is she on? Ours, sir. Completely and without reservation. She believes in the Galactic Defense Fleet, in protecting innocence, in working together across species lines. That belief is genuine. I have tested it extensively. Korvax nodded slowly. Good. Because officers like her come along once in a generation. We need to nurture that talent, channel it, and make sure it is used for the right purposes. Agreed, sir. She will graduate in 2 weeks. I want you to recommend her for your Advanced Tactics course next term. The one where we teach senior cadets how to fight against impossible odds. Sir, she just demonstrated that she already knows how to do that. Exactly. Which means she can teach others. And something tells me we are going to need a lot more officers who can think like Maya Laurent. The graduation ceremony was standard military pomp. Speeches about honor, duty, sacrifice. Cadets in their dress uniforms. Families watching proudly via holoconference. The usual traditions. But when Maya Laurent's name was called, something different happened. Every predator species in the graduating class stood up. Thracians, Kryn, Velkori, even a few Zeltari, who normally kept to themselves. They stood at attention, a gesture of respect normally reserved for superior officers. Maya walked across the stage, received her commission as an ensign in the Galactic Defense Fleet, and shook Admiral Korvax's hand. The predators sat back down. I caught up with her after the ceremony, in the hallway outside the auditorium. Congratulations, Ensign Laurent. Thank you, Professor Vorkath. She smiled. I hear you recommended me for your advanced course. I did. Someone needs to teach the next generation of cadets how to turn asteroids into cluster munitions. She laughed. That was a one-time thing. Probably. I doubt that very much. I paused, considering my next words. Maya, when you first arrived at this institute, I watched you. Every predator in the class tracked you, and I could not understand why. I thought maybe you were dangerous. I was wrong. Was I not dangerous? Oh, you were. You are. But that is not why they tracked you. I gestured back toward the auditorium. They tracked you because they recognized something in you, something primal. You are not a predator, but you have a predator's instinct for finding weakness and exploiting it. You have a predator's patience, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And most importantly, you have a predator's respect for the pack. You make your pack stronger, and predators understand that. They trust that. Maya was quiet for a moment. My mother told me something once. She said humans are not the strongest or fastest or toughest species in the galaxy. But we are the best at making friends. And in the end, that matters more than anything else. Your mother is a wise woman. She also said to never fight fair if you can avoid it, and when in doubt, blow something up and run away. So, you know, balanced advice. I clicked my mandibles in amusement. Where will you be stationed? Patrol Frigate Valiant. Border patrol in the outer reaches. Not glamorous, but it is a start. The outer reaches have been heating up lately. Pirate activity, territorial disputes, rumors of something bigger moving in the shadows. I know. Her smile faded slightly, replaced by something more serious. Which is why they need officers who can think creatively, who can turn disadvantages into advantages, who can protect people even when the odds are terrible. You will do well, Ensign. Just try not to blow up too many stations. No promises, sir. She saluted, crisp and professional, then walked away. I watched her go, this small human who had changed everything, and I felt something I had not felt in years, hope. Because the galaxy was dangerous, and getting more dangerous every day. But if Maya Laurent was the future of the Galactic Defense Fleet, then maybe, just maybe, we would be okay. 3 months later, I was teaching another class when the news broke. The frigate Valiant had engaged a pirate fleet in the outer reaches. Outnumbered 5-1. Should have been a massacre. Instead, the Valiant had used a nearby nebula's electromagnetic interference to mask their approach, fired a spread of sensor decoys to confuse enemy targeting, and then rammed the pirate flagship at full speed while the crew evacuated in escape pods. The collision disabled 3 more pirate ships, and the resulting chaos let nearby patrol vessels mop up the rest. 0 casualties on the Valiant, aside from the ship itself. Complete pirate fleet neutralized. The commanding officer of the Valiant filed a formal commendation for his tactical officer, citing, and I quote, unprecedented creative problem-solving and a disturbing willingness to destroy her own ship if it meant completing the mission. The tactical officer was Ensign Maya Laurent. I read the report 3 times, then started laughing. I could not help it, because of course she had. Of course she had taken the tactics from her final exam and adapted them to a real combat situation. Of course she had turned a frigate into a kinetic weapon. Of course she had won an unwinnable fight by changing the rules. That was what humans did. That was what Maya Laurent did. And as I sat there in my office, looking at that report, I realized something important. My instincts had been right all along. She was dangerous, terrifyingly dangerous. But she was our kind of dangerous. And the galaxy was a safer place because of it. 6 months after that, I received a personal message. Short, direct, very Maya. Professor Vorkath, thank you for teaching me that creativity matters more than strength, using that lesson to protect people who cannot protect themselves. Also, I may have accidentally started a new tactical doctrine called dynamic asset repurposing, which is just a fancy way of saying use everything as a weapon. Fleet Command is not sure if they should promote me or court-martial me. Thought you would appreciate the irony. Ensign Laurent. I sent back a reply. Ensign Laurent. I am not surprised. Try not to ram too many more ships. It is bad for your promotion prospects. Also, attached is the curriculum for my advanced tactics course. You are scheduled to guest lecture next term on unconventional warfare. Do try to avoid teaching cadets too many ways to blow things up. Professor Vorkath. Her response came 30 seconds later. No promises, sir. I smiled. Because that was Maya Laurent. That was humanity. That was the future. Dangerous, creative, unstoppable. And sitting in the back row, quiet and unassuming, until the moment they changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. And honestly, I was looking forward to it. Because when you have humans on your side, impossible just means you have not found the right solution yet. And Maya Laurent was very, very good at finding solutions, even if those solutions usually involved explosions, chaos, and a complete disregard for conventional military doctrine, especially then.